It's tabletop time, and I am Jen. Welcome to my local hobby store. In today's video, well, we need to talk about a couple of things. So let me take you on a journey.
So I interviewed 3 different female creatives to get their perspective on what it's like to be in this community and to be mini painters. And if you haven't guessed already, that is what the theme of this video is. It's females in the hobby community. So to kick things off, I asked all of my interviewees to introduce themselves and their hobby. And as you guys know, I'm Jen from Tabletop Time, and I mostly paint Games Workshop minis, specifically more 40k and Age of Sigmar.
My name's Louise Sugden, and I love to paint miniatures. I'm a full-time painting presenter. You may recognize me from Warhammer TV and Masterclass, and most recently, and very excitingly, I am the presenter of my own channel, Rogue Hobbies, which has just launched on YouTube.
My name is Laura Wagstaff. I'm mostly known on TikTok. I think it's Laura Ann Love.
My name is Lila Mev. I'm the Mini Witch on YouTube, and my hobby is miniature painting. Specifically, I love teaching and painting to display quality.
So when I started my Warhammer journey back in my uni days, Dave and I were really good friends. And he'd mentioned before that he had gotten into miniature painting and building, and I thought I really wanted to give it a go. So we sat down together and I picked the first army that I would paint. Originally, I'd seen the Sisters of Battle as an option. Unfortunately, back in the day, they were made of pewter and they were incredibly hard to get a hold of. I also wasn't a huge fan of the sculpts, so I had to pick another army. I went through the list about a dozen times and I landed on one that I thought was absolutely perfect. It was the Dark Elder. And the reason that I decided to pick this army over a lot of the others was actually the fact they included female models. And I also couldn't get over the fact that they had these witches that were in catsuits, and I thought that they were really, really cool. Also, to add to the flavor, they also had pirate ships as their transports, and I thought that this was the army for me. It had so much flavor, so much character, and I knew that I would fall in love with it instantly. Do you remember what army you were collecting at the time, Dave?
This was about the time I relaunched my childhood Chaos Space Marines army, and it was also about the time the Dark Vengeance was coming out. And I do remember warning you away from Sisters of Battle because I knew how awful it was to make an entire army of metal models. And I was very surprised that you picked Dark Elder. I didn't take you for the spiky pirate ship girl, but here we are today.
I'm actually really glad I chose this army in the end. I ended up painting a force full. I was able to play actual big scale battles with everything I had built, and I was really, really happy with them.
So that's an interesting question. I went through a couple of stages with Warhammer, and when I was around 7 or 8, I got introduced to Warhammer for the first time, but I didn't really paint anything because they were my friends' miniatures and I was like a kid, so he'd kind of let me sit there whilst he built stuff, but I didn't paint anything actually like tangible until I was in uni. The first miniature I painted properly was actually the Mascus Lanesh, which just kind of stood out to me as being like a fun colorful miniature to paint. And I did paint it quite colorfully, but I don't have it because it lives at my friend's house where I painted it. I think it suits it there because he has a Slanesh army.
I'd have to guess, and I think it was my very first, I had a Dark Elf for my first D&D game. It's a guess. It's been so long.
First miniature that I ever painted was this little knight guy that I got from my local game store. He was a little Reaper miniature. I painted him with metallic paints. He had a flaming skull in his hands. I painted all the objects that was lighting on his armor. And it was in that moment that I realized that metallic paints weren't going to cut it, and I needed to learn to paint more realistic reflections. And just on the first model, I was already sold in diving into all of the nitty-gritty, very advanced techniques because what I had painted for my first model wasn't cut.
So as the years passed, I kept painting up my Dark Elder, but I also evolved and painted some different minis as well. This included some Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Underworlds, and Necromunda as well. I kind of primarily stayed towards more female-based minis, and this reasoning, I can't really describe why. Part of me just really wanted to paint up something that represented me in a way. I felt more connected, and I also just really enjoyed painting them. It was also really great to learn from Dave, who had a ton of experience in the miniature painting scene. I was able to learn lots of tips and tricks, and he gave me critiques when I asked for them. He pushed me every time in a way that was constructive and really, really supportive. As time went by and we had different minis and different armies, eventually we ended up opening the shop that we have in town. And our love for miniatures only grew bigger from there. We got better as painters and even became presenters. We truly fell in love with the hobby that we were doing in our spare time, and it became our everyday job.
I've always been like the weird arty kid. So it's not like a weird jump from what I've been doing my entire life into miniature painting. I went to art school. I did art all through like high school and stuff like that. And then I went to uni and I started doing doll painting, which is a bit weird. Like, ball jointed dolls. So I was already quite used to miniature painting. My friends had like a box of orcs just kind of kicking around. It was the summer holidays. I must have been about 21. The mold. And he was like, hey, we're painting Warhammer this summer. Do you want to paint Warhammer this summer? And I'm like, absolutely. I thought that was great when I was 8 years old, and I haven't aged, and I still think it's super cool.
For like a long time, I used to draw dragons a lot. So I was really into fantasy. And I remember a couple years ago, I had heard about D&D. And I told my boyfriend, hey, like for my birthday, I really want to play D&D. I don't know why, but I want to. And so he's like, okay, let's, we just got a 3D printer. Let's try and look some things up. Maybe we can print some stuff. And from there, it went like crazy. And then we got 2 and 3. And then so every time we would print something, I would be painting it. And it just went nuts. So I fell in love with being able to paint these little guys and put them out. Would be so happy about it. It was so cute.
I only do miniature painting. I first started miniature painting because my husband, after several months of me not being interested, finally convinced me to play Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't want to play Dungeons and Dragons because I thought that it was lame and I had no interest in participating. But eventually I accepted that I would play just one session. I would finally give in and play one session. And we can see how things have gone from there. So it all started with one Dungeons and Dragons session.
Interesting. Do you still play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, I am. I've been with my current table for 4 years. We are currently in our 3rd year of our current ongoing campaign, and we meet almost every Saturday.
That's amazing. I love that.
First time I walked into a games workshop, again, I had Dave by my side and he kind of showed me around. I looked at all the different boxes and all the different armies and thought about all the ways I could build them and create different scenes and just have a really fun time with the hobby. While I didn't engage a lot with the community, I did have Dave on my side and a couple of other friends that I could play small games with and have little painting sessions as well. It was fun having a little group of friends that I could trust and also show my models off to. Something I was really nervous about when it came to this hobby was learning how to play the game. I often have a little bit of anxiety and I wasn't sure how the community would take to me. I started off by playing small games with a lot of close friends who happened to be male. It's from there I grew a little bit of confidence, but still I never found myself brave enough to go into a Games Workshop store and play a game all by myself. And to this day, I still haven't. And that reason? Well, I'm still not really sure, but I'm still discovering why.
I didn't have a lot of friends. I basically was the weird shut-in kid at uni who never went out. I just didn't get out a lot. I just liked being a bit of a shut-in. That was where I thrived. And everything I kind of did was on the internet. So I would post miniatures on online forums with like totally anonymous. And I would order things from like Element Games, which just got shipped to my uni room. So I'd never had to leave the house, which was great for me. So the first time I walked into a Games Workshop was kind of like by force, I want to say. I think it was Black Primer. So I had to go into a Games Workshop and I was terrified. I didn't want to go in. Not because I'd heard any like stigma. I was just a socially anxious kid at that point, I would say. But I walked in and everyone was lovely. Everyone was so nice. Of course, they asked like, who are you? What do you do? What do you play? And I was like, oh, I like orcs and I like converting them. I showed them like loads of pictures and they really liked it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, I guess. Oh, that was it. It was Armies on Parade. And they were like, oh, Armies on Parade is coming up. You should enter it. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't know. I ended up entering Armies on Parade. I ended up winning it. I got gold. And then I ended up just making loads of friends from that because obviously people had seen my army and then they were like, oh, we'd quite like to play games with you. And I was like, oh, all right. And I ended up making some like forever friends who I still talk to this day.
Oh my goodness, that's an amazing story.
But I was scared. I
just remember walking in and being bombarded with everything. Like I didn't realize there was so much you could get.
Do you go back at all, or do you find that it's kind of you're more comfortable like staying at home?
I've
or
never
like,
played in a gaming store.
okay.
I just playing with strangers I haven't, done yet because I'm not too sure. So usually I'd be staying home. I just, go when I need paints or when I want like new cards or something.
Mhm.
But I've only ever really played with friends.
Would you be opposed to doing like an Adventurers League, like where you go into the store and do like play with completely random people?
I probably would try it. It's just it takes me a long time to get like open.
Yep.
Like really open and like I don't do voices. Sometimes I do. I don't dress up. But
Mhm.
when I'm comfortable with friends, I will. I'll go full in. Not
Yeah.
voices, but I'll dress up. But with strangers, I don't know because I try. I'd say I try. I just have to bring someone with me so I'm more comfortable.
First game store that I ever walked into was not my current local game store. My current local game store is amazing. But the first one I walked into was some little independent game store that very much focused on Warhammer. And I walked in with my then boyfriend, and it was a very odd experience because my boyfriend at the time felt the need to tell everybody that I was his girlfriend. And that kind of told me everything that I needed to know about that game store. First, I expounded upon it to gaming at large, but very quickly realized that was not the case. But that was not a great way to first enter the hobby, feeling like I needed to be protected from the other men that were there.
Hardships, I would say it's mainly mentally because even when I finish a painting of a movie, I don't think it's done and I don't think it's good enough. And then I'll get on Instagram and somewhere else and I'll look at everyone else's and I'm like,
Yeah.
why can't I do that?
Yep.
So even though people are saying, oh, this is great, it's like a weird mental block that for a while I was painting minis for Etsy for customers. And it took a toll where I was just like, I don't like it. It's not done, and it doesn't look good enough. Why can't I shade it that way? And then I would just stop for months. So currently I'm on a hiatus because it's like mental, something I still haven't gotten over.
99% of the time that I have been in this hobby has been wonderful. I don't count that first experience of me walking into that one game store. I don't count that because that was just a one-off. So looking at especially my career as a woman miniature painter, being on the internet, almost everything has been totally wonderful. The only negativity that I've ever had is occasionally I'll get comments on YouTube where it's very obvious that people are upset that I am not willing to take their criticism. I recently had a guy comment on my YouTube video telling me that my septum ring was objectively ugly. And I asked him if he felt better commenting on random women on the internet about their body modifications. And that was not the right thing to say. And all I can think is that really happened because I was a woman replying to him. And he felt the need that because I was a woman on the internet, therefore he could comment on my body and on my looks and how attractive I was and how attractive I needed to be on the internet. So I think that any hardships that I've had in this niche have more so been just general misogyny that happens to blend into this hobby or is carried into this hobby by those particular assholes. But for the most part, everything in my hobby has been wonderful. I have always been made to feel very welcome and cared for.
It's good to hear that at least the majority you're feeling comfortable. But it's just a really interesting perspective that as soon as you say that you're female, it can just change everything for some people. And I hate that. I think that's really awful.
I totally agree. And it makes sense as to why women are less likely to come into this hobby, because even though I can only count these things that have happened just a few handful of times out of the many years that I have been here, it can take us one interaction and then suddenly they don't want to be in this hobby anymore.
I think everyone does experience hardships in the hobby, but I think the reason we're here is because of our perspective of being women in the hobby. I used to post anonymously online, and the feedback I got when I posted anonymously versus when people found out I was a girl was vastly different. And that's a shame because we kind of saw it from both perspectives. Because I think when I posted anonymously, people assumed I was a boy.
Yeah.
And when the curtain lifted, and it was this like tiny little ratty Scottish girl, they were like, oh, actually, we don't like you anymore. And there was a lot of just horrible things said about me. Rumors started, and it was like, and it was so obvious that where it came from, right?
Mhm.
Because I had done nothing different between painting an orc anonymously and painting an orc outwardly as a woman. There was no change there, except for one thing. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's clear that the people who had these criticisms of me, and when it was never the miniatures I painted, it was always me as well,
Mhm.
which is interesting. And it was clear that they weren't really founded in actual sort of criticisms. It was because, I don't know, maybe they felt like intimidated by women, scared of women in the hobby, or anything like that. And it was a long time having to kind of learn that these people say horrible things, not because they think you're horrible, but because they have a hard time accepting a change in their familiar environment.
Totally.
And that takes a long time to kind of like forgive for that.
Yeah.
I don't think you should forgive. I think it's more understanding probably is a better term.
Do you feel like it's gotten a lot better now compared to then?
No. Again, when I got into Warhammer, it was early days. There wasn't a Warhammer community. There wasn't an online presence. You talked to people on forums, and then you didn't really add them on Skype. There wasn't like chat rooms or anything. At least for me, I didn't engage in that kind of stuff. I think now that there are more women in the hobby and we're visible, we're out there, people can see us. I think now there is a lot more attention on that, whereas 10 years ago, A, there wasn't as many women in the hobby, and B, it wasn't as much a community thing as it is now. So I think in a way the pendulum always swings, and I think it's gotten a bit worse. And I think as people like see all the women coming out and we're just there and we're just normal, it'll go back to being okay.
Yeah.
I do think it'll it's there's certainly more that I see rather than less, because there's more of us, I guess. But I think what's good about that is that as people see people being maybe a bit meaner to women, there's a lot of backlash against that. There's a lot of people standing up for women and going, no, just don't be a douche.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is great. It's great to see as well.
It's really important that we establish these people, these women in the hobby, and kind of bring light to the fact that we're all just having fun. We're all just painting minis.
Literally no different. Literally nothing's going on that makes us in any way estranged.
Like the people I've interviewed over the past couple of months, I too have received comments that are based purely on my gender, questioning whether I actually want to be in the hobby, whether I enjoy it, if I know the rules, but it's all mostly based on the fact that I am a female. That all being said, the overwhelming positive comments that we get on videos is absolutely amazing, and it should have absolutely nothing to do with gender. And finally, Games Workshop is including more diversity in their mini range, including different body types and genders.
In the store, we definitely wanted to keep a couple of those core values that were missing from other places we had visited. This mainly included keeping it community focused, but also having an aspect where everyone could feel safe and play games. I'm sure Dave can elaborate on these core values a little bit more.
I always wanted to make sure we had a local community where anyone could walk in off the street and feel welcome, and ideally a place that nobody would feel afraid of walking into. Our community is a small country town community, so we really can't afford to have people pushing other people out and making them feel unwelcome. Community game nights, painting events, and group slow grow campaigns was the name of the game, where we tried to make everyone welcome and feel like they were all part of the journey.
I can say without a doubt our community is completely inclusive. We like to make sure that we cater to different types of games and minis and allow safe spaces for everyone to enjoy.
However, despite this, no matter the rules written on the walls or the attitudes and behaviors that were and were not tolerated in my local store, there is a massive divide between the number of male and female females involved in our hobbies, and I think we all need to be part of the solution. One thing I did notice over my years running the store is that there are more girls out there than you think, but most of them play their own games at their own game nights away from game stores and public events. Whether this is due to the poor behavior or a fear of poor behavior from some of the boys is something I don't have the answer to, but I think it's something we will all need to come together and address in the future.
My original local community was Aberdeen in Scotland, and they were fantastic. I never felt out of sorts or out of place there. It was never a problem. Like, it shouldn't have been, and they exactly treated me like that. I don't think it was an effort or anything. They were just fantastic, and I still love them and consider them my local to this day. Nottingham is different, I think, because I kind of work there. I worked there for 7 years, so I don't think I got to kind of experience having a local game store because it was my work, right? But certainly working at Games Workshop, I met my people there. I feel like the staff at Games Workshop are lovely people. I joined Games Workshop 7-8 years ago, and from day one, they were absolutely lovely to me. So yeah, I've always found a good local community.
My first step into the D&D community was TikTok. And for the most part, super sweet. I was really surprised with how many supportive, wonderful comments, asking, how did you do this? This looks so amazing. You did such a great job. There's obviously it's the internet. There's one or two weird comments where they're mean and for no reason. But for the most part, I even saw other people commenting. They're like, I'm so surprised with how nice people are.
My local community is absolutely wonderful. I love my gaming store. They have painting clubs every month that when I am able to go has always been welcoming and wonderful. And people are always really happy to see me. And I've never felt like being a woman has been a problem or has ever led to anything negative in my local store.
So as I mentioned before, this video has been a really tough one to make. And I can say for myself that my journey into miniature painting has been a rather pleasant one. Luckily enough, I had someone in my life that was already super into Warhammer, and I think if they weren't there, I would have never picked up a brush.
Didn't know I was cool like that.
While my local community and Australia in general have been really good and kind to accepting me into their community, it's a completely different story online. Any YouTuber opens themselves up to criticism when they start posting online, but something that I found is that I would get comments purely based on my gender. And it's hard to say it doesn't affect you because it absolutely does.
Now, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but the first live event that I attended was actually ARC a couple of months ago. And I've sung its praise a couple of times on these videos, and I still do to this day. It was truly a unique event, and I was a little bit scared going into it, but I had an absolute wonderful time, and everyone was absolutely lovely. While I was a little bit sad not to see more females in the hobby, I did get to meet a couple, and it was truly an amazing experience.
I've attended many, many live events because I used to work at them. I used to go there as a Games Workshop employee and run the painting tables, and I'd sit there and talk about my artwork. So I've attended maybe more than most people attend events, and I absolutely love events. They were one of the reasons that I actually wanted to become a painting presenter, because I really just wanted to talk to people about Warhammer. It's my favorite thing to do. I've never had a bad experience working at a painting or gaming event in my life, which is quite, like I said, from the amount of tournaments, events, painting events, competitions that I've been to, that's actually very good. That's very impressive. I think that speaks volumes for the people in the Warhammer community, that I've never had a bad experience. It's all lovely, and I can't wait to meet more people at more events. And I've never been scared to do that, which is great.
I actually haven't done it yet. I really wanted to. I've seen some stuff come up, but just haven't yet. So I really look at it. I don't know what it'd be like, but I've seen TikToks and stuff. It looks so fun.
Okay, well, if anyone is open, can make it work, we'll make something happen.
Last week was Adepticon, and it was absolutely amazing. There were YouTubers there, there were Twitch streamers, fans, just people there to generally play the game and paint. And it was such a wonderful collection of people who are just really excited to be a part of the community. There were tournaments, there were painting competitions, and honestly, it's the happiest that I've been in a while, and I'm really sad. I had to obviously come back home. But Adepticon is an event that I look forward to every year, and I have always loved going to it.
Yeah, awesome.
I think different people want different things out of the hobby. The temptation is to say, go out there and meet friends. But some people kind of like, that's pressure for them, right? I would just say, find what you love in the hobby and really enjoy it. So for me, what I love about the hobby is the kind of therapeutic nature of painting, where I can turn my brain off and just kind of do this thing. And at the end, I get something out of it, which is really rewarding. And that's kind of what I focused my passion into. And then I kind of slowly realized, it wasn't like, oh, I suddenly decided I like this. I slowly realized that what I really love is teaching people how to do that. Like teaching people how to maybe love Warhammer in the same way I do. So I would say, do the same thing. Find what you love. If you've gone online, you've gone on, I don't know, Twitter, and you found a group of people that like talking about Warhammer, go for that. There's no correct way to enjoy the hobby. And there's so many different facets of it. If you want to think of Warhammer as a game, that's fine. If you want to think of it as a fandom, that's great. And if you want to think of it as an artistic kind of outlet, that's also extremely valid. It's just about finding what you love and not feeling pressurized by it, because especially with painting, there's a lot of really fantastic painters out there, and it's really easy to look at them and think that's how you should be. And it's a journey, not an end point.
We'll start with like role playing, because I'm still like, I still get nervous role playing and stuff, because I think it's like you're tapping into that weird part of you, maybe not many have seen. And you're like, is this okay? Even if other people are role playing, I'm still like, I'd say my biggest way into it was role playing with my friends. Like if I had went to strangers, there's just no way. Like being able to do that for 3 or 4 years now, we've been running our D&D campaign. It's so nice because I feel so comfortable, and I'm getting more and more there with trying out voices. And I mean, we have one next Saturday. I'm dressing up because it's like, why not? That's fun.
Great, yay.
I had a friend who would just watch us. She's like, oh, this is murder. And she's very shy. She's like, this is murder. And then she saw us play it and she's like, can I join? I was like, yeah. She's like, can I do whatever I want? I was like, yeah. She got into it. Like we had a funeral for a fish. It went all over. So I was like, I'm really happy that she got into it.
Yeah.
The advice that I would give to somebody entering the hobby for their first time is to reach out to other people, whether that's just people on Instagram that you like or other people in your community. I guarantee that almost everybody in this hobby wants to talk. This is something that I have to deal with as well, as I feel like I'm not cool enough to talk to that person, or I'm not good enough, or whatever, that they're probably so busy they don't have time to talk to me. The likelihood of that being true is very low. Of course, every time you message someone on Instagram, it's not going to immediately make you friends, but you can reach out to anybody and all of us are going to be happy to talk to you. So join a Facebook group, join a Discord server, whatever you can do to really help find and build a community. And if you just post saying that, hey, I'm new to this and I'm looking for friends, I guarantee that people will
awesome
to you.
It's interesting seeing me paint up this model that I had originally painted back when I was much younger. All of the tips, techniques, and tricks I've learned have been from other creators. They've inspired me to push myself and try my best in doing something that I genuinely do love to do. It's wonderful to see so many creators being able to share their passion for their hobby online. And to that extent, I do really enjoy seeing female creators because I feel like I can relate to them more. And I feel like they inspire me to try just that little bit harder and create something truly unique and fun. So overall, I'm actually really happy with how this mini turned out. And yes, I did paint the sand this time around. Originally, when I made these minis, I had just dumped sand onto the base and left it alone. But this time around, I had to paint the sand in, so it looked a lot more natural. But overall, I'm super happy with how this turned out. And I think I want to continue this scheme maybe one day. It's original and it's my own and it's the first one I ever did.
Being online can also have its positives. We're able to find creatives from all over the place and engage with them in different ways. And if I was an aspiring painter and I wanted to get into the hobby, if I knew there were female creatives and I could put a face to a name, it would feel like a way more welcoming experience.
I guess I just want to kind of tell people, that it's okay to love the hobby however you like and to not be scared about other people enjoying it differently to you. Like, their enjoyment of it doesn't take away your enjoyment of it. And if you think it does, you probably need to sit down with yourself and have a long chat, because it really doesn't. It's important that we make it okay for people to enjoy the hobby in different ways, because that's how you get cool creative stuff that comes out of things. And if someone comes in that doesn't look or act the way that like a typical Warhammer person acts, and that doesn't take away from anything that anyone enjoys, and that's absolutely fine. I think if a super girly girl plays Warhammer, then that's like, it shouldn't even need to be as discussed. Like no one needs to fit into a category.
Yeah.
No one does.
I've seen a lot of people be very wary of getting into this whole scene of D&D or even painting. Like, they're nervous of other people. I've just gotten a lot of comments on TikTok where they're like, I don't know how to get into this. And it's like, just get in.
Just start.
Just go to YouTube. There's Reddit. There's so many people where if you just message them on, one of the groups, they're so sweet. And they'll be like, yeah, I'll teach you. It seems intimidating. There's a lot going on. There's, D&D, there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of this and a lot of that. And then painting, there's so many different types of paints or brushes, or how do you do, blending and all of that. But really it's just gotta step in.
Loads of people. So you kind of sprung this one on me, and I wish I had more time to. There's so many people, obviously, as the more arty side of Warhammer, there's so many people that inspire me. And I've just left Games Workshop, and that was a big deal for me. And what I really want to do is shout out some of the people that made my time there the best time ever. So loads of my friends in the Specialist Design Studio, thank you for making 6 years of my first big job the best time of my life. Thank you very much for that. Thank you to everyone who supported me during this transition into my new channel, because it's been very scary. And everyone's been very nice and very supportive. And I guess thank you to everyone who chooses to support me in the future. I really hope that we get to be friends and have a really cool, awesome Warhammer adventure together.
There's one, they're all on TikTok. There's Cave of Crafting. He's so sweet. He does amazing crafts. He's blown up on there and he deserves it. He's insanely good. There is also Trash Dragon Hobbies. He does really cool stuff on there as well. And he blew up as well. Totally deserves it. Like, he'll show you how to do all these little things with foam. I still haven't stepped too much into foam, but it's so cool. And then there's another guy named Glory Forge, and he's made his own forge, and he does a little role playing, and he's so fun to watch. Like, he's very sweet.
So Elizabeth Beckley is an amazing woman artist. She has been so kind. I reached out to her at Adepticon. She's the one who I said, oh, I'm not sure if I'm cool enough to talk to you. And she was like, yeah, you're absolutely cool enough to talk to me. So we sat for an hour and had coffee, and it was just really wonderful. And she was so honest and welcoming, and really made it feel like she was just excited for there to be another woman who was wanting to get really involved in this community. For Twitch streamers, Zambies, of course, is great. There's Chromatic Miniatures on Instagram. Her name is Kelsey. She competed in Golden Demon and Resin Beast from Creaturecaster, and all of her stuff was just so amazing, and she was so incredibly, incredibly nice. And I think that it's important to find women who want to work in this hobby, but it's also important to find women friends in this hobby. So I highly recommend reaching out to whatever woman that you admire in this hobby. Go out and try to befriend them, because they guarantee that they're going to be very excited to hear from you.
There are a ton of creators that have inspired myself to, well, create. And I got to interview a bunch of them in this video. So I was super excited to be able to interview them and ask them all my questions. At the end of the day, I hope they answered some of yours too. So Dave, do you have any favorite creators?
I have immense respect for all the creators that put in the time to consistently produce and upload videos for our free entertainment. But when we talk about inspiration, I'm especially impressed by those who are willing to let their principles put their reputation on the line when it comes to these things. There are a couple of channels in particular who've made really brave and progressive statements on their channel, thinking immediately of Goobertown Hobbies here, and they do not back down from their principles, ensuring that there are always safe and welcoming places for people in the hobby.
100% agree. I absolutely love Goobertown Hobbies as well. He preaches a message that I can 100% get behind. And with that all said and done, and with our interviews all wrapped up, and my model looking shiny and nice, it's time for the final reveals. And as always, a huge thank you to all of our Patreons. It's because of your support I can make awesome videos like this one. I hope you've really enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more documentary style videos like this. If you'd like to join up to our Patreon, we have perks that you can get every month. All the links will be down in the description below.
Hi everyone, Dave here, and this is my dingy little hobby store that I've run for 8 years. And one of the key reasons I opened a gaming store is because I saw a country community that I grew up in, and I really wanted to make a space that was open and inclusive for all the people out there, anyone. If you're like me and you're a nerdy person, I'm sure most of you watching this were, you might not have had the best time at school, and there's nothing worse than basically being judged for all this stuff you got no control over. I think so many of us in the nerdy community have experienced being ostracized or bullied or treated like we're weird for whatever reason. I think it's kind of gross to perpetuate that. So while I don't feel like it's my place to talk on a video about female issues and their opinions on this hobby, I can say that we at Tabletop Time, the boys at Tabletop Time, wholeheartedly support this. I'm so proud of Jen for making this video, and all the women creatives out there, and anyone who basically faces adversity in this hobby, because you shouldn't. We're making plastic toys. What are you doing? Like, come on. Let's all have fun, bash some models together, and if you at any point think that you're judging other people for things that aren't related to the hobby, or even maybe are, maybe you're the dick. And if you feel like you need to comment angrily when you hear that, yeah, we're talking about you.
So a huge thank you to Laura, Louise, and Layla for allowing me to interview you guys. They are a huge inspiration to me, and all of the links will be down in the description below. And we at Tabletop Time just want to say thank you so much for watching our videos, and we want to help support you as much as we can. We believe that the hobby should be open for everyone, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, whatever it may be. We all just want to make hobbies, and we all just want to have a good time. So again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.